All right. So once again, thank you for coming. I appreciate you for taking your time to discuss the importance of black law enforcement organizations. The first black law enforcement organization was in October 17, 1935, the Texas Negro Police Officers Association. It was the first black law enforcement organization. Now why back in 1935 did they have the start of black law enforcement organizations? Right, reasons in 1935, blacks functioned as token officers. They could only work in black neighborhoods. Challenge racism in American law enforcement. That's from Delaney. Sounds familiar, don't it? Sounds like 2019 when we're addressing these issues. Now, here are the years, according to Delaney, different organizations throughout the United States that they actually started. Is that clear? Oh, okay. In 1972, the first national conference, black police organizations throughout the United States, based on their rationale for organizing on the need of both to make the police more professional, to reform long-standing nationwide racial policies. St. Louis Black Police Association hosted the first national conference for black police in 1972. And in 1972, I got my elders right here. The National Black Police Association was founded in 1972 from this conference. Right, what was the goal? To improve relationships between the black community and the black police department, to improve the professional status of the black policemen, individually and collectively, to encourage more black citizens to actively apply for employment with law enforcement. We are still doing that today, right? Right? Still doing that today, still fighting the same fight. 1972, first national conference goals to assist reducing cause of crime, to encourage further development of law enforcement professionals, and out of the conference, the National Black Police Association, 1972. Other black law enforcement organizations, National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice, created in 1974. Noble, organizing a national organization of black law enforcement executives, 1976, right? Recognizing black law enforcement executives could have significantly more effective impact upon the criminal justice system through a unified voice. You know, this is from Afro-American Police League. You know, I love this logo. It just reminds me of the mindset. Ron's laughing, but it reminds me of the mindset that they had back then, right? And we need to still have now. We need to have that mindset. And I got this picture in my basement because I think that's real powerful right there. And it shows the attitude of Renault Robinson, when I call one of the gods of black law enforcement, who in Chicago set the standard of black law enforcement organizations. So, accomplishments. For decades, black law enforcement organizations, how are we seen in our communities? Are we seen as protectors, oppressors, sellouts, or just brothers and sisters with a job? How are we seen? All above, right? All above, that's right. all above. Right? As America becomes more a military state, law enforcement careers are more appealing to most communities. However, the number of black recruits are dramatically declining, whereas the number of black youth with criminal records before 18 years old are on the incline. Additionally, many African Americans, male or females, that are eligible for law enforcement do not look for law enforcement as a career because of overwhelming result resentment and distrust towards police that exists within the black community. That's a fact. My wife is a detective. I'm a correction officer. We have 2 kids. My daughter's a nurse. My son works in the hospital. They wouldn't even take the test because of their experiences with law enforcement as they were coming up, and even having parents in law enforcement. They had bad experiences with law enforcement. So we have to be more vocal and try to reach those that are qualified to take the test. It is a constant outreach. Now, the next slide might scare some people, but we have to tell the truth here. The United States criminal justice system is a sanctum sanctorum of white supremacy. It is what it is. And we have to recognize that where we work at, but we are in a position to change that. We have always been in a position to change that, especially for our community. We don't do it anyplace else. We do it for our communities. In 1975, an article titled "White Racism, Black Crime, and American Justice," criminologist Robert Staples argued that discrimination pervades in the justice system. He said that the legal justice system was made by white men to protect white interests and keeps blacks down. Staples charged that the system was characterized by second-rate legal help for black defendants, biased jurors, and judges who discriminate in sentencing. We know that is true. Michelle Alexander, in her book, New Jim Crow, gave facts that it's true. So where are the people, as Michelle Alexander says, to fill in the gap to address these situations? It's us. It's every black law enforcement organization that exists today is us. Now, some of us might be in it to get a promotion. Some of us might be in it to get a good post, some overtime. But it's really to be a part of these legacy organizations is to fill in the gap. Is to address the issues in our communities. This is from the Afro-American Patrolmen's League. We will no longer permit ourselves to be relegated to the role of beautiful pawns in the chess game affecting the communities in which we serve. We are mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, neighbors, and members of the black community. Donning the blue uniform has not changed this. On the contrary, it has sharpened our perception and our responsibilities as black men and women in society, seemingly unresponsive to the needs of black people. We see our role as protector of this community, and that is the role that we intend to fill. Afro-American Patrolmen's League. That's the role that we are supposed to fill. It hasn't changed since they started, and it shouldn't change today, no matter what organization that you are in. Our job is to deprogram the black officer. We all know, if you go through the academy, you are broken down and put back together to the norms and values of the police department that you work for, or the law enforcement agency that you work for. When they say us against them, they never give a description of them, but usually them are people that look like you and me. When you see the policies and procedures that they put through, most of them, most times, you know, it affects our community. You know, we just had a new class that just came in at my job. I've been 30 years, I'm on my 30th year at Westchester County Department of Correction. And when you look into the eyes, these young brothers and sisters, they're just scared, you know, because they want to fit in, right? They want to be a part, you know, and then in times when you do that, you lose who you are, right? You're black before you're blue. You know, a white officer is white before he's an officer. And that's real talk. Italians are Italian before they are officer. Right? The Irish are Irish before they are officer. They have their networks. right? And then when you come into the room with them, right, they all network together as white people, right? So they have their networks. We need to have our networks. Come on in. If y'all coming in, come on in. Man, I feel honored. I got a packed house. I got a packed house.
We need more chairs.
Yes, sir. Somebody take a picture of that so I can sit at home. Because they wouldn't even think a whole bunch of room people were listening to me. I tell you that. Here's some more of our goals. Moreover, it should be stated here that many black police are against the system and have been for many years. However, they know that if they would have spoken out against it, they would be subjected to unbearable pressure and even might suffer the loss of their job. Black police are in a disadvantage in numbers and political backing. Therefore, they are afraid to challenge the police structure. That's true. Exactly. That is true. You know, I got black officers scared to talk to me at my job. They scared to join. But we still have to do the work that needs to be done. You know, even though there's some of us are vilified for speaking out. Some of us are retaliated, you know, for speaking out. If I tell you my story, y'all wouldn't believe. But we have to continue to speak truth to power. That's our responsibility in being in a black law enforcement organization. And as we get close to when we start talking about Trump, you see why. We have to be a support system for our brothers and sisters, regardless if they're members or not. I've helped people that wasn't members of the organization. They don't have to be members, but we still have to be that support system. And we need to, as organizations, whether you're local or national, need to have resources, legal, information, political, organization, policies, and finances. And I put maybe, right? You know, black people with finances. We are not, we don't raise the same amount of money as the FOP or any of those, but we need to. We spend enough, right? We're the highest consumers, and as law enforcement, we make a lot of money, right? They always, I know in New York, they're always putting who made the most money, you know, who made the most money and who got over $200,000. It always comes around contract time, and they put everybody's salaries in the paper from the highest, you know. But we make enough money, right, as law enforcement officers to have an organization, to have legal defense, to be able to lobby on policies and procedures, and to be able to challenge our elected officials, especially our black elected officials that, you know, we support and put in office, and then they get in there and they do nothing after we give them proper information, because we are the professionals on legislation and they do not pass legislation. You know, we have to get to that. We have to get to that level. We're not there yet, but I believe sooner or later we could get there. And that's just a picture of the Natchez chapter in Westchester County, just supporting one of our members who, young man, he went to Africa. He's from Africa, and his family's from Africa, and he came back and he got sick out in Africa, and he came home and had a stroke, and he had to retire. So we raised some money for him, you know, and that's what we do. You know, that's what organizations are supposed to do, is to support their own. Right? We want to build a better relationship between black law enforcement and community. Right? So how do we do that in building a better relationship between black law enforcement and the community? You got to be visible in your community. You don't always have to be visible in a uniform, because we have to understand, after 400 years of oppression, right? After Jim Crow, after segregation, after Bull Connor, even though we take pride in that uniform, and I take pride in wearing mine, but the black community sees that as oppression. It is what it is. You know, I might hurt somebody's feelings about that because you take pride in your uniform, and you should take pride in your uniform. But we got to understand, Roger Abel, who wrote the book Blue Shield and was a mentor of mine, he was the Northeast president of National Black Police Association. He always told me, when you represent the black law enforcement organization, don't wear your uniform, brother. That uniform is a sign of oppression. And I've done that. So we want to work with house of worships, local organizations, local PTAs, local politicians, and build trust with the youth. You want a partnership with whoever you can partnership in the community, right? So you have to use your networks to get into the doors. Churches never turn police away, right? Always want to go talk to the churches and talk to them, because the churches is your outlet to the community. All black people go to church on Sunday, majority, or go to some type of house of worship. It is what it is, right? So we have to use those outlets to get our voice across, and we are the professionals of law enforcement. When there are issues that go in our community or nationally, right? You watch CNN, you don't see one of these organizations on CNN, MSNBC, not even Fox News, right? But they're professionals talking about incidents in law enforcement that affect our community, but we're not involved in that conversation. We're not involved. We need to be more involved in that conversation. Because how you gonna get solutions if you don't talk to the people that's trained in the system, right? And trained in the system in a conscious manner, not just being officer of color or officer of conscience. That's what these organizations produce, right? You can also help officers with continuous training, right? Partner with certified law enforcement training organizations, right? Because I tell young officers to come to any conference they can go to, because to get promoted, to move up, the cards are against you. They don't put black officers in the places where they can get the knowledge to get promoted, right? We all know it's true, right? So if young officers come to these classes and put these classes, these trainings behind them, they're almost creating a level playing field on their own, because when they sit with the interview, oh, well, I took all these classes at the NAVIC conferences. And then the ones that they want to promote, they just put in places that they know the job, but now you know how the job works on a national level. And that's what we need to do. But we also need to set it by example to get the young officers to be part of this, right? Don't be afraid of the media. Use the media to get your point across. Use the media to control the narrative. Establish relationships with local and national news outlets. Don't be afraid to have a press conference. A lot of times, organizations are afraid to have a press conference and talk about issues. I really don't know why. They can't do nothing to you if you're not in uniform.
That's not quite accurate.
What? Well,
not in Ohio, because whether in certain positions, whether you're on or off the job, speaking to me on a political subject could be very,
well, there's something called your constitutional right to free speech.
yeah.
And as long as you're not, there's already case law behind it.
still be fighting that, you know, in the employment line.
That's why and I'm going to get into that. That's why you have to have organizations like this who will give legal defense, because the unions, I know first of all, the unions ain't going to fight for you. That's number one.
Right.
And if you don't have a union, right, the organization should have legal counsel for that. I know for a fact they tried to fire who's currently now the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams, when he was, I believe he was a lieutenant for the NYPD, and he was also the founder of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, and he spoke to the press. He put his coat over his lieutenant, a regular coat over his lieutenant shirt, pulled the collar up, and just because a little white was showing on his collar, they tried to fire him, and he won. So there is case law, and nobody can stop you from speaking. They could challenge you. I'm not saying they won't try it, but it's your right to speak on public concern. It is your right. I'm gonna give you another example. There was a captain of mine, white guy, and he wrote in correction books about gang signs. He was one of the top national people on deciphering gang codes. His name was Clevens, Captain Clevens. And the department gave him a lot of trouble. You know, they gave him fever on writing in these correction magazines. And he asked me, he said, well, why they don't bother you? Why they don't bother you? I said, because I don't represent myself as part of the department. When I stand there, I represent myself as the organization. I speak on behalf of the organization. Even when I go to the county legislators meetings, which I work for the county, I tell them I'm not here as a county employee, I'm here as a representative of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. So you're not, when you speak out, you speak on representing your organization. And I just think maybe it hasn't happened, you know, in Ohio, and I think it needs to happen. We need to have venues to be able to speak to the press, and we need not to, because that's the only way. See, if we don't speak out on these issues, black folks ain't never going to trust us, because they still see us as part of the system. They're going to continue to see us as part of the system until we start speaking out on it. Right? So I have here, right, do not wear your department uniform. Do not wear any departmental insignia. Do not address yourself as your rank. I know we work hard to get sergeant, lieutenant, all the ranks, warden, and all that, but don't go out and say, well, I'm warden so-and-so. No, I'm Damon Jones, a member of whatever organization that you belong to. How black law enforcement is perceived by our community is our power. It is our power. It's our own influence. We gain information and we gain respect by being in the community and speaking on issues in the community. Being silent, we would never gain their respect, and that's real talk. We have to be more in our community, not just the programs that our department do, and we go in there with the uniform and we say it's community policing and we say it's this and that. No, you're still representing the oppressor, I may say, or the department. Going in as your organization. Do different things in your own Christmas stuff, give out toys, do stuff, but don't do it through the department. Do it through your organization. That's how you get respect from the community. Work with local organizations. Now this guy here, right? I don't even want to say his name, but the elected president, when he was elected, or when he was campaigning, America's largest police union endorses Donald Trump. Now, when the FOP endorsed Donald Trump, all the other unions, whether we know it or not, got in line. Even in New York, where you have a large number of blacks and people of color in different unions, I don't think New York City Correction did, but a lot of unions jumped on board and endorsing Trump with his racial rhetoric. And they still support him. Why do they still support him? Because the FOP put out a letter. First 100 days of Trump. Right? And y'all can just read some of this stuff here. Right? It goes against communities of color. Some of y'all might pay dues to the FOP, I don't know. Right? They want to draw back Obama's 21st century policing. They want to pull back oversight from the Department of Justice of police departments who were found abusing black people. This is the FOP. This is where we at. This sister here, it says what? More black officers resigned from San Francisco PD union over leadership's failure to address minority issues. This is a problem. We have a problem. But the problem can be solved if we're willing to do that. Your union is only good as your contract. That's all your union does. It's a collective bargaining agent. That's all it does. Black officers, male and female, when we have union issues, it's basically outside of the contract. They might use the contract against us, but usually it's retaliation, it's racism. There's a lot of other issues that's behind that the union doesn't address. Just look at anybody that belongs to the union. Just look at their mission statement. It has nothing about protecting us, nothing about equality and ending racism and ending discrimination. None of that is in your union's mission statement. None of that. And more, I get calls from all over the country, black officers trying to find help because their unions are not doing anything for them. This sister here, the St. Louis County is illegally blocking black law enforcement organization, the Ethical Society of Police. Now what happened with the St. Louis Ethical Society, they had saw that black officers were treated different in being represented by their union. And the many discrimination and harassment cases that went on in the St. Louis Police Department. So what they did was they sent a memorandum of understanding to the chief that they wanted to be also in on the representation of their members. So what happened is that the city rejected that. The city said they already have a collective bargaining agent, which is the FOP, which is their union. So they refused to allow this organization to send a member. So if you get in trouble, you got to go to a hearing or anything, you can have your union representative, but you also can have someone there from the organization. They did that. They said no. They wouldn't do it. So now they're in court. They're in court. And I think everybody should watch this case, because if the judge rules in their favor, and I think they will, we should send representatives from our organization when officers get in trouble. We should be able to do that. In the 90s, when we used to have the Westchester Correction Guardians Association, back in the 90s, we used to have that. But we had a black commissioner, Noah D. Jackson, and he did not mind that. But now we're still fighting to do the same thing. So I'm literally watching this case because I think we should be able to send a delegate or someone to sit in to make sure that the union is representing our members correctly. because I think everybody in here that has some years in the law enforcement department knows of or have a story themselves or when they wasn't represented correctly by their union delegate or their union, or know somebody that happened. Black law enforcement response to the fraternal order of police over the night Kaepernick endorsement. This story, it wasn't just the National Black Police Association, but it was other black law enforcement organizations that challenged the FOP when Nike endorsed Kaepernick. And this story went viral. Everybody was talking about it. It shows the power that we have as black law enforcement officers to address issues. Now, some of us, I hope not, may disagree with what Kaepernick did, but what Kaepernick did was noble. And he lost his career for kneeling on issues that affect communities of color. But then something happened after that. Something happened. It was a case, Supreme Court case, Janus versus the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees. And what happened with that? So, Janus didn't like the political positions that his union was taking. They were supporting candidates he didn't like. So he said that they're violating his First Amendment right because he was forced to pay union dues, even though they used part of their money to do political activity. Right? And he won. He won. Now, nobody has to pay union dues if they don't want to because of this case. Right? No, what they call that? No taxation without representation. Now, we don't have to pay union dues. And let the union tell it we will lose any contractual obligations or protection. And that's a lie. Because this case says you don't have to pay. But the union still has to do their job. And you're still protected under the collective bargaining agreement. Now, why is this so important? Because it goes back to this, what they're doing here. It goes back to them saying, well, black law enforcement organizations saying, we want to represent someone to represent when one of our members go there. This is very important on the power of black law enforcement organizations moving forward. This Janus case, and it's not about being against unions, right? Because when you speak on this, the first thing they'll say, well, you're against unions and you're against the labor movement. No, I'm not against unions, and I'm not against the labor movement. What I am against is how people of color, black and brown, are treated in unions, are not represented correctly on issues of race, discrimination, and harassment. There was a brother who was a correction officer, and I'll tell a story. I showed this video 2 years ago. Who was a correction officer that was shopping, and the police come running in. The police get a call that the suspect was on the roof of the building, of the supermarket. So our brother Lanier was in there getting some stuff online, minding his business, and the cops came in and went straight to him. He got groceries in his hand, and they proceeded, while he was trying to identify himself, they proceeded to whooping his behind until he started screaming for the people in the shop to take out their phones. So we had a press conference in support of his brother because they wouldn't divulge the cops' names. Even after Lanier took a picture of them, they still wouldn't tell who they were or divulge to the press who they were.
I'm going to close by merely saying this. As it was stated yesterday, a couple of days ago, we should not have to watch our backs because we're black. And I'm going to say it again. We should not have to watch our backs because we're black. We need to start looking at the psychological makeup of police officers. When I clone it, when I say when they go crazy. Because in that moment, police officers must have went crazy. And that's something that needs to be looked at, it needs to be dealt with. We need to start looking at what happens to a police officer after he or she has been on the job for 2 or 3 years, has been given a license to kill, been given a gun, been given a badge. You take a psychological exam prior to getting the job, but after you're on the job, nobody checks what your mental status is. That needs to be checked. And I can almost guarantee you that if we start doing more mental evaluations of officers after they've been on the job, that 80% of these departments would have to fire their officers and rehire. So we need to make sure that we hold these people accountable. At this point in time, I'll take any questions from anybody.
I'm gonna end that there. What happened to Officer Lanier happens to black officers all over. One case, another case that I was very close to was the killing of Detective Christopher Ridley. Y'all can Google this up. He responded to a assault. A mentally ill man was beating up somebody, and he went to assist, and he had the guy down at gunpoint. The county police officers came out of 2 buildings, and they shot and killed Detective Ridley. The crazy thing about it is 3 of the police officers was in the academy with him. One was his squad leader, and the only black officer there was a friend of his father's. They did not recognize him or see him. But the real sad thing about it is that the political system, the criminal system, made him the criminal, made him the bad guy. They killed that man twice. But who do black officers go to when incidents like this happen, or racial discrimination within the department, harassment, and all the issues we face as black law enforcement officers? Who do we go to? And that's the question we need to leave here, but also understanding that these organizations are very important. And we have to use these organizations to address these issues. It was started that way in Texas to address those issues because they didn't have a union, so they had to protect themselves. But it should maintain it in these days and times. Thank you. If you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think that systematic racism exists in almost every system within America. And when we look at the police department, it's nice to see that you guys, although they claim to have a thin line, we see that when we look for justice, it's just us. Because in looking at the video, it's interesting to me that very few white folks were there. I think I saw one white guy, and I think he may have been the cameraman. So it shows, it re-emphasizes the fact that we all need to police the systems that we are part of.
Exactly.
And we also need to hold our own systems accountable.
Yes.
Because if we don't, then we are not only the victims, but we are part of the problem.
Yes.
So I commend you, because one of the things even in Ohio that we were looking at is, the police department oftentimes everybody is saying that, you know, we're trying to safeguard the community. But in doing that, you don't safeguard yourselves if you don't identify the bad apples within your group.
That's right.
So you have to also, within your own system, identify those who don't really represent you if you want to maintain the integrity of your operation.
That's right.
So I commend you for this.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Hey, I'm just a college student,
Mhm.
you know, at this conference here, and, you know, I guess I joined this because I wanted to see what law enforcement would think, especially in this era.
Mm-hmm.
We saw in 2016, I wasn't able to vote, so I had to leave it up to the older generations. And should I, and should my friends, like people who look up to me for advice, and my friend who I hang out on a daily basis, who I hang out with, should we trust law enforcement at all?
Yes, you should. Yeah, and I'm not saying, you know, hate police. I sleep with one every day. I would hate them. You know, but you should, but you should trust law enforcement. But you should also hold it accountable, right? Law enforcement is supposed to serve the community, right? You are literally like, they get community policing twisted, right? They think doing some programs and kissing babies and all that. That's community. Community policing is not that. Community policing is when the community control the police department. When the community looks over the rules, regulations, and habits and policies, and even employment of the local police department. The black community is the only community that don't have a say in how their community is policed. You can't do what they do in the Jewish community. You can't do what they do to us in the Italian community, Irish community, rich white community, or any affluent community. They have control of their police department. Black communities or poor, or even poor white community, they don't have control of their police department, right? Because we don't take control, right? We all here, we make good money, but we get money from the taxpayers, right? We get money from the taxpayers. So even local police departments. Right, so they disrespect those who pay their bills. From, depending on what department you work, from your benefits. Yes, sir.
Oh no, I did want to ask him because I thought that was an excellent question, and and timely too, in the sense that I think when you're looking for, if you're interested in going to law enforcement, what you have to do is pay more attention to the what it is that law enforcement does and the attraction of the job more than the salary.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's nothing wrong with looking at the history. If you want to be a police officer, there's nothing wrong with looking at the history of policing in this country. It's nothing wrong about reading about the different eras of policing. We've gone through about 4 eras of policing in this country. And looking at and doing some analysis and research around what those eras have been about and what is the impact of those eras on our community and then individually on us as people. How have we said? Let me just say, I know for a fact that there are less blacks in law enforcement today than it was 30 years ago.
Exactly.
There are less black chiefs of police in this city today than it was 25 years ago. And there are reasons for that. When we got black mayors, we got black police chiefs, because police chiefs are appointed. So when we started losing black mayors, then we started losing black police chiefs, so they're not there anymore. And then we don't see the emphasis that was put on once upon a time on hiring black and women, because women were not part of police departments. If you look at the language that was on the screen, it talked about policemen.
Right.
There was a position in police departments called police women or police woman. And women, unlike men, had to have a college degree, and they were not allowed to police or walk or patrol the streets. And they weren't even allowed to wear pants. They were only allowed to wear skirts. So they worked in the jail, the female part of the jail, and were clerks. So there were lawsuits that changed that. Do you know who the first woman police chief in this country was? A white woman named Penny Harrington was the chief of police in Portland, Oregon. You should know something about the history of the job you're getting ready to go on. Because you don't need to be naive, because if you go there naive, What, a friend of mine says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you. So if you want to be a police officer, you need to do some background work.
Right.
So you know what it is you're getting into and
Right.
what it is to expect from it, and then know where your position is. Police have a lot of power in our society.
Exactly.
So if you want to get their power and then be like, get taken advantage of, no, I don't think you do.
Right.
So you need to use that power in the kind of way to help you and ultimately help your people in your community. That's what.
Let me just finish. But you need to trust the police, man. Hold them accountable. It's simple as that. Don't go not trusting police, you know, but hold them accountable. You know, and I ain't saying, brother, you know, you get pulled over, you know, put your power fists up and all that either, because that'll get you killed. It's also a way to handle, you know, those encounters, you know, in a proper fashion that you won't get killed. You know, and I give a view that's very unpopular, right? If Sandra Graham would have just put a cigarette out, she'd be alive today. And I'm keeping it 100. Right? Only thing she had to do is put a cigarette out. Right? Sometimes you have to treat police officers like they got mental disorders, like they 730. Because they are, because you don't know. Listen, look, we all got issues. A lot of us we all come with issues on the table. We're humans, right? We're humans. So you don't know when that police officer pull you over, brother. You don't know last night he got caught cheating by his wife or whatever. You don't know what problems he's bringing to the job. So you have to treat him like he's mentally unstable, and you have to be the calm one. So because your goal is to get home. Right? And then call your lawyer, call NAACP, call us, call whoever you need to call, you know, to address the issue. But you shouldn't go with a distrust, you know, with police. You should go understanding that they work for you and understand the policies and hold them accountable.
Yeah, I want you to change the narrative just a little bit. You start off saying, I'm just a college student.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Now, let me say this to you and to the rest of college students and young professionals in the room. You are much more than a college student. You are, in fact, my future.
That's right.
I'm depending on you to get it right.
That's right.
And so being in these roles, articulating positions that may differ for your generation than for mine, that's where I expect you to be. You're not just a college student. You are my future, brother.
That's right.
And I'm depending on you to get it right. So this is an excellent opportunity for you to gain some knowledge, to create your own mindset, understand the role of discipline, and then take charge. We messed up these things. We messed up some things. Well, we're depending on young folks, particularly in this generation, to get it right.
That's right. That's right. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Yes, brother.
My name is Travis Mason. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm currently a college student with you as well. Surprised I didn't see you yesterday. I'm currently I'm a juvenile supervision officer. They changed the title.
Okay.
And there's a lot of kids in my facilities that tell me that they actually want to become a juvenile officer too, or they want to join law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And some of the things they would ask me, and I would know some of the reasons why they're in there. Can I still be a police officer? Can I still be a part of law enforcement? So, like, my kind of question for you is to just, can you give me insight on how I can help them or anything they could probably...
Yeah, tell them they got to read some books, bro. They got to read some books. I don't know, different state has different laws. I know that New York, you can still become law enforcement if you don't have a felony, right? I don't know, I don't know what maybe some states say if you have a misdemeanor that might put you out. I don't know. But I know in New York, as long as you don't have a felony, you become and be a law enforcement officer. I mean, there's some brothers I saw, they got locked up on a misdemeanor for 2 days, and now they working in the same jail they was in as an inmate. But it is what it is, right? So I think young people should learn the history of policing, learn how it starts. Delaney's book, is what is it?
Black Police in America.
Black Police in America. Great book to read. Roger Abel's book, Black Shield. Great book to read.
In Houston, what's her name? May Walker wrote a book about the history of blacks in the Houston Police Department.
There you go.
You need to read that book.
There you go.
You got one of the most famous criminal justice individuals in the city, and Bill is named after Lee T. Grant.
And I say that to say this, I'm in the process of being a cadet for the Metro Police Department.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And one of the comments was on there was they want to know like your prior history, like your personal history and things, and such as like I would think about the children that I work with, their juvenile history. You tell them the truth on the minor charges that you may have had, but then they hold that against you and tell you that you can't get in because of something you did as a kid. So that builds a distrust with the kids, and it's like, you told me to tell the truth, but now I can't get in.
But you still have to tell the truth, because they're gonna find out anyway. I mean, like at the end of the day, they do the background check. I mean, but that's an issue we have in black law enforcement, and having black people in charge to put people that look like us in the investigative areas and interviewing areas, because a lot of times when you don't see people that look like us, we don't get the job. Right? So they put their white friends in there, and next thing you know, it's family friends benefits. You see 4, 5, 6 generations getting the job, but you don't see us getting the job. So that's another struggle that we have is getting people that look like us in those positions and to interview people, right? Because we understand, like you could get a white guy, got some tickets. Oh, well, he has some tickets and he's remorseful. Black guy, it looks like he likes to break the law. They'll put that in an interview. Right? They'll put that. I mean, this is real talk on how it goes and how the system is when it comes to people that look like us. So, that's why it's an effort for black law enforcement organizations to work with the community to even get people elected so we can try to get people that are conscious like us in those positions.
What I was going to tell them was that looking back, doing the research and history is important. Because once upon a time, not only blacks couldn't be police officers, but you didn't have to have a high school diploma to be a police officer.
Right.
All you had to do, if you was white, all you had to do was have somebody that was a police officer and it was legal. Believe it or not, there was a time in policing where you didn't even take a test to get promoted. So all of that stuff has changed. All of it has changed. And there were reasons why it changed. So do you know, for example, I personally don't think that there's nothing special about being a police officer that you had to have before you go into the police department, because you learn how to be a police officer after you get there.
Exactly.
They don't prepare you for it. To be president of the United States. Obama he didn't go through a training course to be president. His life trained him. And that's what trains us to do the job. So if you think, I know in our city, in a lot of cities, you didn't have to have a college degree, 60 hours or 4 years to be a police officer. Somebody said that an individual with a college degree is better prepared to be a police officer because of his or her experiences through college. Now, I don't agree with that.
Exactly.
I think college education is important, but I don't think you have to have a college degree to be a police officer, nor do I think a college-educated individual makes a better police officer. I don't think that. Now, there's probably proof in some situations out there that do it, but why are we now going from you didn't have to be anything to be a police officer to all of a sudden now that has opened up to people of color and women? So you got to have all this special qualifications. The fact of the matter is that I can tell you as a truth, the same thing that police was doing in 1970 when I joined the police department, they're doing today in 2019, and it didn't make any difference.
Exactly.
And I had a college degree. So it don't make it ain't nothing changed. You can talk about what you ought to have, but if you don't use what you got, and a lot of times that's what we're seeing.
Exactly.
We don't see them putting to use the specialty that you bring to a profession.
Exactly.
I know guys who work. Say this last. I know guys during my time who worked in public information. Now, you all know people working in public information do what? Interact with the media. So the question on your mind ought to be, well, Ron, were they journalists in college? Because if you work in public information, you got to do what? Interact with journalists. You got to write press releases and interact with the chief and all that. Hell no. They didn't have no journalism degrees. They knew some goddamn body that walked.
Exactly.
They didn't look like me.
Exactly.
And when we got our first black chief of police in 1978, he said, I want some black folk in public information so that they can reflect like I reflect. And that's what he did.
Right.
So
Exactly.
no, don't do that to me. So and if you want to change that in Houston, then you need to be working with people in the community who
That's
think
right.
like you,
That's right.
getting ready to change the dynamics and raising the question about whether or not what the qualifications
Exactly.
are that's going to lead you to getting in policing. And in order to do that now, you got to crack them books and know something about the history.
That's right.
Because that will prepare you for it. Because you don't go from nothing to something without a reason why all of that took place in the middle. So you want to do that.
Exactly. I
Stay out of
think.
trouble too.
Yeah, exactly. That too. I think those qualifications are filters to keep us to keep us out. I know Bobby Rivers was telling me NYPD used to have algebra on the test, right? You know, to keep people out, to raise the bar. Yes, sir, brother.
How you doing? My name is Gerard Young.
How you doing, brother?
For all the new recruits, another thing you have to worry about too is stumbling block is your credit, especially in our community. That's one thing we're not too educated on, that they educate other people on.
Right.
Make sure you get your credit right. Make sure you know that's in good standing, because that'll be another
Soon,
way,
if
another
they
way
don't,
to disqualify you.
Exactly.
So that's one. That's an undertone. This way to disqualify you. So that's very important, and no one really talks about is your credit.
And
The federal, yeah.
just to add on to that, is to why is your credit important? And the reason is that they will perceive that you got bad credit, you owe a bunch of people that you might be likely to accept a bribe.
Exactly.
So they try to wean you out. You know, so understand that. And to respond to your questions about the young juveniles that you dealing with, you know, you apparently give them some hope.
Exactly.
Okay, and don't take that for granted. Juvenile records should not be a factor. It's what they do from now. When they move on, leave that alone, whatever they, you know, whatever reason they're in the system, that they let it go. And they're gonna have to work hard to prove that they can be a police officer. But you give them hope and keep it moving.
That's great. Yes.
Hi, my name is Mariah from Chicago. We all know about that place. But for the college kids in the room, a lot of us who actually work for a law enforcement agency can attest to this. There are not a lot of us in various agencies. So for those of you who want to join law enforcement, know that your behavior is looked upon with a microscope. Everything that you do, they will look at you with the evil eye of why are you doing that thing. The others can be cutting up in the corner, carrying on, keep in. You can't.
That's right.
Because they will look at you and assume that you're doing the wrong thing. So you have to be on your A game 100% of the time. Achieve excellence always. Don't settle for less. Because if you settle for less, they're going to give you even more, even less.
That's right.
And you don't want that. So it's already going to be, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be times they're going to choose you over others to do things to, and they're going to test you. You have to be strong, remain resilient, and just do what you can do. Because really, we need more of us on the inside.
Yes, we do.
And can I add something to that?
Yes.
Be mindful too of social media.
Yes.
What you put on social media.
That's right.
There was an up and coming attorney who inspired to be an attorney, legal attorney, and could not because on her social media, she had some things that were unacceptable to that particular system. So she didn't get the job. Actually, they were about to offer the job to her, did a background check, saw some things that were just unfavorable, and she did not get the job. So just be.
That's right. I tell young people when they talk about taking the test or they fill the application, once they take the test, I tell them, shut down your Facebook accounts, Instagram, shut it all down. Shut it all down. You know, I tell them all the time because they do look at that now. That you know, and you know, our people put some crazy stuff up there. You know, and just sharing it because it's funny, but you never know who's looking at it. You know.
And it could be the smallest thing. You could be standing at a party, a cookout or anything, you have a cup in your hand.
Exactly.
They see that as unfavorable.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
But we need to start talking to the children in high school, in middle school, and
Yes.
high school.
Yes.
Rather than waiting until they get to college and
Yes.
start looking at careers. We need to
Yes.
talk to them early on and talk to parents.
Yes.
Talk to parents about monitoring what the children are looking at. Because it's important. I mean, I'm a retired teacher, educator, and COC. But we have to be very mindful as leaders, as parents, as teachers, and as people that young people look up to. We have to also be mindful, but because we have even people in our age group who put unacceptable things, even right now on social media. I can't stand it. We have to look at them at a younger age now, doing the corrective action,
right.
You know, before they get into a position where they start to look at careers.
Adding to what you're saying, even though, cause I'm a graduate from St. Lucie State University, I just left college. So we go and we mentor the kids in the community, thank you. And they, you know, we give them the monitor what you're posting on your social media. Well, why? At the same, I was just having this conversation with her. It's the parents, like you said, but it's like parents aren't being parents. Parents themselves are children raising children.
Exactly.
And it's a problem when maybe the representation isn't what it needs to be. I mentor juveniles, and so I've gotten the response of, well, miss, I've never had anybody that look like you come and hear my story, or come and that you know, you look like you, but you look like me too, and you kind of know where I come from. So I feel like the representation isn't there when it comes to giving the talks about social media, or the talks about how to carry yourself in, like, I guess, the world, because it's like, well, nobody's really paying attention to them in a sense, or not, I guess, giving the conversation in a acceptable manner that it makes sense to them. I think that maybe if we gave the conversation of how, like, watch what you put on your social media, but then bring examples of people that have possibly lost their jobs or, you know, got denied jobs, then maybe it would make more sense. But at the same time, it's also the pushback of, like, well, why are they looking at my social media? So it's like the disconnect, like they don't understand why. You don't understand, well, technically they don't understand until they get to college. I have peers that, like, can't get jobs because they posted stuff, you know, like 16 years old, but it didn't click until now.
Exactly.
And there's like the disconnect. They're like, oh, well, that's so far away.
Exactly.
But I don't know. But I really wanted to bring that
No,
out.
but that's good. But that's, you know, but see, that's what organizations is for, is to inform the community. You know, that's what we should be doing, you know.
And that's one of the things that we're doing in Ohio. We've got something called Promises Made, Promises Kept, holding elected officials accountable to campaign promises.
There you go.
But
That's what I'm talking about.
Because if you don't change the policy, you're not going to change your situation. And I always ask people, heck, what does it feel like now since you last voted?
Right.
And if it still feels the same, there's a reason for that. And when you don't vote, then you leave that vote up to somebody else. So it's your responsibility to vote. But for young people, just to speak to the young people, we now have an arm of that organization called Young Adult Voters Outreach, which means your time will come. Your time has come. And what we look for you to do is to give us your voice, because so often adults tell you what you need to do, what you need to think, and we talk the old way. We want to hear what you have to say. What are your ideas? What does social media look like to you? Not to us, and not what we think it should look like or what we think it looks like to you, but what does it really look like? I found out when we did a campaign for we did a voter rally with young people there, found out that a couple of the people who were involved were homeless. I had no idea. I'm so far removed from that. There was no way I would have been homeless. We had aunts and uncles and cousins who took care of us if my mother went to work. So we don't understand what that looks like. We need to hear the young voices of today. So I'm just saying, everywhere we sit in our systems, there's systematic racism, as we talked about the criminal justice system. So even in the police department, there's systematic racism. When you are looking at what we do, don't think that it's all flowers, because it isn't. We've had to fight through and tear down those walls. So we now have to leave it up to you. What are you going through? What policies impact you as young people? And if there's no policy that impacts you and it all looks like adult policies, you need to face up to that and start thinking about down the line. If you're an aspiring attorney, if you're an aspiring, let's say you want to be a writer, whatever it might be, think about what that will look like. But you've got to break down those racial barriers to get there. So we need your voices. So that's just FYI on a little piece of public service announcement.
And this is just to piggyback a little bit on what she said there, but from the social media side, I'm a 52-year-old father of 3 boys, 18, 16, and 13, right outside of Baltimore, Maryland. And and I coach Little League football, and I stress to everyone 45 or 50 and over, stop hating social media. Embrace it. Embrace it, and for my young people going into law enforcement, please teach and share with us who are a little older how important it is. I'll share this last story. Friday evening, some of my football players, they are middle school kids. I coach middle school football. They were at a skating rink, and one of them got jumped. One of them got jumped outside the skating rink. I was in my home, in my bed, laying next to my wife, and because of social media, Instagram, I was able to intervene from my bed and have those kids that listen to me take their asses home. No, and I say this.
Exactly.
I'm monitoring social media.
That's right.
Because when my kid walk out the door, I need to know. I love social media because when I was a kid, my mama ain't know what was going on.
Exactly.
I'm a Southeast kid. I was out there.
Exactly.
But with social media and all of us that in law enforcement and corrections and watching our children, watching the community, we need to be up and not Facebook.
That's right.
Because that's mommy book. They don't do it.
Exactly.
But Instagram and Snapchat, I'm on it nightly.
Exactly.
When my 18-year-old takes his brand new car out the driveway, trust me, I'm on.
That's right.
I'm on.
And he tagging all the way wherever he is.
Everywhere.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
I'm like, bro, I know where you play. 1102. Bring your butt home.
Exactly.
So I get nervous when I hear us of this mature generation say, I hate it, or I think that's foolishness. We gotta stop thinking that, because that alienates my young man here who was ready to come up and help with the meeting. That young lady who jumped up and can take care of things that we ain't even clear of. That'll be with them, boys. They are, as my man says, they are our history, and I love everyone.
That's right. That's right. Anybody else have any comments?
Just be responsible with your social media.
That's right.
Exactly.
Try to be responsible.
But I think as we close out, I want to thank everybody, but I hope this enables everybody to at least think about where we need to be and where we need to go as Black law enforcement organizations, whether it's locally, whether it's state, or whether it's on a national level, in addressing our issues as Black law enforcement officers and the community issues. And I want to thank you very much. Thank you.